The XFL kicked off this past weekend. Leonard Williams wants like 15 million a year, and then on top of that, Mike finally got his cool Brawl T-shirt that he's repping right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Giants Brawl Podcast. We're the best podcast in the Big Apple for the best football team in the Big Apple. As always, I'm your host for this evening, Usayd Kolsho. You can follow me on Twitter at Usayd Kolsho. Anthony was telling us about calculus earlier and how he needs help in it. So if you're a tutor and you're out there, hit Anthony up in the DMs. You can follow him on Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo. And then if you just want to, talk about Kay Adams, hit up Mike Trainer's DMs too. You can hit him up on Twitter at Mike Trainer MFT. Guys, what is going on?
Failing calculus. That's about it.
Good, man. Good. I'm having a good week, man. Watch some XFL. I kind of appreciate we got a good NFL game going on after watching those games. I don't know what you guys thought, but.
Okay, so I watched I was sick this past weekend, and so I watched probably, I want to say 30 minutes of the XFL maybe. And yeah, it's cool. I thought it's a great initiative because this is like minor league football, similar to the NBA G League or minor league baseball. But the deal with this is it's going to need to have a great product each week, which I thought it did much better than the AAF that launched last spring and folded in 3 weeks. I think they're going to have to sustain a good product each week for it to be able to be successful.
Yeah, I actually didn't get the chance to watch any XFL this weekend. I just caught the highlights. I was in Disney over the weekend, but I'll say I saw a few plays that really caught my eye, some really big hits that definitely would have been flags in the NFL. And, I like to see that. I mean, let the guys play. Sometimes the flags are just a little too abundant in the NFL for my liking. So it was cool to see some big hits in the XFL highlights.
Yeah, I couldn't really get into it, man. It's definitely a different game to say the least. But you know what they do? They do need to be successful in that league is get a guy like Antonio Brown that's just sitting on the sidelines. Maybe Des Bryant if he wants to go play there. You need a big name to show up in order for people to get that much more into it. I mean, it's cool having football after the Super Bowl, but I mean, come on, man. We all know it's not the same.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so y'all know how sometimes in minor baseball or the majors, what they do is there's a specific player that's been out for 4 months and they don't throw him back into the starting lineup. They send him for another month to one of the minor league teams. I feel like NFL teams should do that if the XFL was a year-round thing in the sense that it was played in the fall with the NFL. You could make this into a minor league system because that would also allow for you to have a young quarterback, let's say a rookie that you're not going to start the first 7 or 8 weeks of the season anyway. Get him into the XFL, just minor, just have him take a couple reps. So I think if this product succeeds and you're an NFL owner, you should seriously think about getting your toes into this and just making a minor league and charge people some tickets for the games because there's some money for the games for the tickets because you'll get some extra money in your pocket. And these NFL owners, we all know they're about money.
Yeah, of course. I mean, football is a business, and I'm really happy that you brought this up with the timing of the season because I think that is the biggest problem with the XFL is it's not being treated as a minor league. It's being treated as a league of its own. So it's really hard to put a player in there, develop him for the NFL because, that would mean that he's playing from February to whenever the XFL wraps up. And then he'd have to get right onto a practice squad or whatever and right into training camp. That would mean he has a full 365-day football season. And, I don't know if any human body can take that, no matter how good of shape you're in. That's a lot of hits and, physical contact. And that's a full year of football with no offseason and no break. And that sounds like a lot. And I think that, like you said, if it were running in the fall at the same time as the NFL season and it was treated like a minor league, I think it would be much more beneficial for the players.
Yeah, definitely two good points there, fellas. I mean, I don't know how guys would last. They would need to sign people off the street, basically more than what they're doing just to play all these games. I mean, to be like a minor league team, though, that's 100%. I 100% agree with that. I would love to see guys like every other league has a minor league system. Basically, why not see these guys grow, and maybe they can contribute to like the Giants or some other team in the NFL. I would love that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and it would definitely make the life of like the GMs and whatnot easier, because you got like the team in New York, for example. Let's just say they're a minor league affiliate to the Jets and Giants. What that would enable these GMs to do is they would not have to, obviously drafting would be still important, but the reality of it is that if you miss on a draft pick, you can just go into the minor league system right there and bring someone up that your coaching staffs kind of spend some time developing, and that you got like an XFL scout, let's say, a dedicated scout in the NFL, or a scout that's NFL scout dedicated to the XFL, that would be able to say, hey, this is why we need to bring this player up. So I think you gotta look at it from being a minor league, from like a minor league perspective. There's going to be more opportunities for guys, and the NFL, like there's only so many opportunities to go around. And this is just like another good opportunity for players.
Yeah, I agree. And if they do decide one day to make it a minor league thing, I think that they should move these teams into smaller markets. Like, we don't need another team playing in MetLife Stadium. Like, we don't have. So, for example, in the MLB, there is like a minor league team in Palm Beach Gardens, and I mean, you guys might have never even heard of Palm Beach Gardens. It's pretty popular in Florida, and that's where I'm from. And so we've got Roger Dean Stadium over in Abacoa, and I go there sometimes and I watch the minor league games because they're cheap and it's fun sports to watch. But you don't have that with the NFL. You have to pay big money to get tickets into a big stadium and watch an NFL team. So I would really appreciate if they made some smaller market minor league teams and put them in some cities like a Palm Beach Gardens or like a Wheaton, like you were talking about, put the team there so that, it's more accessible for like everyday fans to just get a ticket and go.
Yeah, you said it, man. That's a money maker too for the NFL. That's even more money. And that's a great point of moving like another city. Like I know baseball got teams in like Long Island, that would never get a chance to really sometimes maybe drive up to the city and watch the Yankees play, so they actually have something. And it would create more interest, man, seeing like a hometown kid that's in your system. Oh, I want to root for this guy. Let's see what he does. And that's just more money for the NFL to make. And they want their money, man.
Right. Yeah, I went to a Long Island Ducks game when I lived on Long Island, so good point there.
Anyway, I know, Mike, you mentioned making money, and NFL, the owners are all about making money, but so are the players. I mean, what do y'all think of Leonard Williams demanding $15 million a year?
I think he's crazy, man.
I love
That's so much money. I mean, come on, he's a two-down player. He's a run stuffer. $50 million. I mean, come on.
All right, but who will you replace him with? That's the ultimate question.
We didn't even need him in the first place. Our defensive line was already good. We had B.J. Hill, we had Dexter Lawrence, and we had Dalvin Tomlinson. That was already a good core. Adding Leonard Williams was like a luxury, but I don't want to pay $50 million for that luxury.
And here's my issue with this guy wanting $15 million is the fact that like Aaron Donald's making $20 million a year or somewhere in the 20s, right? Khalil Mack's making 23 or 26 million this year. Granted, Mack and Williams, they play different positions, but who in their right mind thinks that Leonard Williams deserves like 5 or 6 million less per year than what Aaron Donald's getting? Like, hell no. So I think like if there's a guy I'd pay $15 million to that I know is going to hit free agency, it's without a doubt Chris Jones. I know Gettleman was a moron for giving up the 2020 the two draft picks, including a 2020 third rounder for Leonard Williams, but still, like, you got this guy for like half a season rental. Now he's demanding all this money, and it's unreasonable. You got to let him walk and see if you can use that same $15 million, throw it at Chris Jones. Because let's be real, like, if there's one guy on the Chiefs defense this past season that was a difference maker, especially in the second half of the Super Bowl, on defense, it was Chris Jones.
Yeah,
without a doubt. I mean, Chris Jones is that guy, and he was the one that you would want to pay that much money. But I don't even want to invest $15 million into the defensive line. I'd rather invest it into the secondary or into the pass rush. I don't even think it's worth it to pay a defensive lineman that much money right now, especially when they're not like a perennial Pro Bowl, All Pro player like an Aaron Donald. I really do think that we had a strong enough core with B.J. Hill, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Dexter Lawrence, and I think that we should just keep it that way. I don't see any need to pay $50 million for a guy who had a half a sack.
I give him 12, man. I go there with like loaded with incentives. I like the way he played. Like, he stopped the run and made a difference. I don't know what this new regime thinks of him. Like, maybe they don't even like him. Maybe they're gonna convince Gettleman, like, don't even bother resigning him, even though he's probably gonna look bad for losing those draft picks for him. But I'd sign him. But I love Chris Jones, man. That could be the guy if we could get him to come over here. That's the whole question. That's another question. Are you going to be able to attract these guys over here in free agency?
I think so. You brought up a great point, Mike. And this is a young team, and obviously, young team, first time head coach. What's going to attract these top tier free agents to the Giants this season is do guys like Joe Judge and Jason Garrett and Patrick Graham, forget Gettleman, but do those coaches, these coordinators, do they have like a legit vision that they can sell these guys on? Because if you have a vision and you tell players, hey, look, this is my vision, we believe we can take your game to another level, I think that they'll buy in. I mean, whereas if you don't have a vision and you're just like, oh, we just want you because we know you're going to be a difference maker. Like, these guys are playing in the NFL. I know they're difference makers. They're top tier players in this league. They're highly regarded by any NFL team. Like, if you just say that stuff, they're going to be like, hell no, I'm going to go sign somewhere else. If you can sell these guys on the vision you're building, which I think like Judge has established that in his opening press conference, then I think you bring these guys in.
Yeah, I agree. I think Judge definitely established his vision, and it's one that the players are going to buy into. And I don't really think that there's going to be any problem luring free agents to New Jersey, New York, because it is New York. I mean, it's the Giants. We've got 4 Super Bowls. We are one of the best franchises in all of sports. You can't hate on the Giants, man. I mean, you got to love the Giants, but the only reason that I would think maybe there would be some free agents who don't want to join us is because amongst players, Dave Gettleman does not have the best rep. There's been a lot of players who have come out and spoken against him, like Steve Smith and Josh Norman. And I think at this point, Odell probably has said something to a few players because I know it was pretty obvious that they didn't like each other. So that whole Odell fiasco, things like that, that might make some players skeptical of joining Dave Gettleman. But I don't think that Joe Judge or New York or John Mara, I don't think any of those will be deterrents to any of the free agents that we look to sign.
I just play that Joe Judge press conference over and over again for potential free agents with like the rock music in the background going. And just, guys here, man, I wanted to run through a wall after hearing that press conference.
Me too.
Yeah, like I will say right now, I mean, I was kind of skeptical. I'm always skeptical of these Patriots head coaches being hired. But like Judge blew me out of the water when I went back. I watched the press conference like twice just to really get a feel for what type of vision is this guy trying to establish. And I know we discussed it a couple weeks after, or when he was hired. So it was about 2 months ago. But really just a solid vision that he established, and it's gonna be a really, interesting free agency period because I think the last couple of years, when you look at it, the teams that have that young offensive-minded head coach, kind of that first-year guy, I think their deal is they just end up doing better in free agency than most. I mean, what do you think, Mike?
Getting back to that Joe Judge press conference, I hate to cut you off right here, but I tell you, man, like it was just so motivating, man. How could you not want to come here if you're anybody in the league, let alone like any scrub or whatever? Just, man, this guy, how can you not want to play for him, man? Everybody has to know. It put the whole league on blast. Everybody heard that press conference. Come on, man. Everybody wants to come here.
I agree. I think his press conference was way better than Matt Rule's, and Matt Rule's was the one I saw all over Instagram. I think Matt Rule, I don't know, he was just do everything the best you can do. Like, it sounded like something that my junior varsity high school coach told me when I was playing basketball. But Joe Judge seemed like he really cared about the players, like on a personal level, and he really wanted to make sure that we turn this thing around for the fans, especially. He was really talking to the fans a lot, and I appreciated that like a ton.
Okay, I swear to God, you just took the words right out of my mouth, like right out of my mouth. So that is exactly what like Matt Rule's press conference reminded me of. I mean, the dude got up there and everyone was like so blown away. And I went back and I watched the press conference and I was like, yo, this is the type of guy where if things go down south quickly, after like a 5 or 6 game losing streak, let's say, the vets in the locker room are going to start to lose confidence in him because he just didn't get up to the podium and then command the respect. And I know all these. So I had Panthers fans in my mentions when I blasted Matt Rule for saying his press conference was boring. He was, they were all like, oh, well, he turned the program around at Baylor. But it's like, okay, let's be real about something. I get he had like the 2, 3, or whatever it was, 4-year turnaround at Baylor. But like, to be honest, turning around a program in college where you're coaching a bunch of 18, 19, 20-year-olds is a hell of a lot different than turning around a full locker room in the NFL where there's grown men that are going to impose their will when they want to.
100%, man. Yeah, you said it, man. Like you're right. Like I think that's why he got these guys, like his coaches, with all the the kind of veteran leadership that they own, the experience they have, maybe to kind of mend that, if it gets to that point. But I don't know, because they'll be 6-0, so they'll never get there. This is just hypothetical, people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the command for respect, I'm really happy you touched on that because you can see Joe Judge commands great respect. And like we said with Matt Rule, I mean, 18-year-olds are a lot more impressionable than 35-year-olds, and in the NFL, you have 35-year-olds on your roster, so it's hard to get them in the right mindset and turn them around. And I think it takes a true man and true discipline from a guy like Joe Judge to do it. And that's why I mean I'm just so confident in Joe Judge at this point, man. I mean, I love the staff that he put together, and I love his demeanor, and I love the way he commands the respect. All we got to do is just nail this draft of free agency, which is going to land largely on Gettleman. That's his responsibility. We got to get this roster right, and I think Joe Judge is the staff in place to really take us to the playoffs and further.
You know what I'm going to do? So I'm going to talk to the folks at Design Tree, right? Because they create our Brawl Network t-shirts. You can check out that link, by the way, on our main Brawl Network Twitter page, which is @NetworkBrawl. So if Gettleman blows this offseason out of the water, I'll talk to the folks at Design Tree and then end up getting Mike like a personal in Gettleman We Trust shirt.
Man, I'll support that everywhere in New York, man. I'll love it. I'll probably get paid at my head, but it'll be worth it.
Nah, it's fine though. You go there, right? So I was thinking for the design for that, right? We could have like Gettleman smiling, right, at the media saying like, "Oh, hog mollies" or whatever, and then go ahead and be like, yeah, hashtag in Gettleman We Trust, something like that, dude, to like get this Giants fan base riled up because it's going to be an exciting 2020 season. Anyways, building off that, right? So we know Gettleman's going to have to like make a couple good moves in free agency, but then also, if you saw our Twitter, by the way, you can follow us at Giants Brawl. You saw one of the tweets that we put out, which was like for Chase Young, retweet for Isaiah Simmons. So personally, what would you guys do in that situation if you're sitting there at 4th overall and you got Isaiah and Chase just waiting?
Well, I got to say, I think that if you would have flipped them around, that tweet would have gotten a lot more retweets if you would have made Chase Young the retweet guy, because I think that's a no-brainer, man. I think if Chase Young is there at 4, you take him. And if he's not, I think you trade back. I think trading back is better than Isaiah Simmons. And I think Isaiah Simmons is a hell of a talent. But when you compare it to Chase Young and you compare the two positions, I think obviously an edge rusher is a lot more important than a linebacker. And as talented as I think Isaiah Simmons is, he is a little boom or bust, like Jordan Reed mentioned when he was on the podcast with us a couple weeks ago. I mean, he is kind of like one of those players that it's hard to project them into one position, and you never know how these college players that play multiple positions are going to pan out in the NFL, because we've seen it all the time with players like Mark Barron, Deion Buchanan, and even Jabril Peppers. I mean, he really hasn't been the stud that he was expected to be coming out of college. and he played like every position on the defense when he was in college. So Isaiah Simmons does make me a little worried with that. I think he's going to be a great player, and I hope he is, but that does worry me a little bit. And I think Chase Young, you're just going to put him in to be an edge rusher, and I think he's going to do an excellent job regardless. So that's a no-brainer pick to me.
Yeah, you're probably right. A no-brainer at number 4. I mean, get a guy like that to slip to you after all the quarterbacks go, I'll take him. But I tell you, guys, you know me, I'm a little bit of a gambler. So when I see Simmons there and I see all this upside and potential, how he could change our defense, playing in the box, out the box, covering guys, rushing the passer, which Chase Young does consistently, why not get all that package, all that versatility for him to come in here? Man, I would love that guy here, man. That's a tough call for me.
Well, yeah, and I was going to say, so, like, Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator. I mean, he comes from, like, the Patriots coaching tree, and that's it, that defensive system. And I think we know that he wants versatility on the defense because that's what they want in New England. There's always that one defensive back or linebacker that's, like, playing all over the field for Bill Belichick, right? So I think in that respect, Simmons would make sense. And he'd be a guy that's still developing, but like y'all said, the upside's definitely there. But if you're going to go instant impact, if you want instant impact, you go Chase Young. But if you want kind of all over the field, then you got to go Simmons. I mean, it's a tough decision because I feel like you're still going to land an impact player either way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're getting an impact player either way, but I don't think it's a tough decision, man. I think the upside is just as high on Chase Young as it is with Isaiah Simmons because there's almost nothing more important on defense than just a perennial all-pro pass rusher, like a game-breaking pass rusher. And that's really what Chase Young has the potential to be. You never have to worry about signing another edge rusher in free agency. Like all our fans were like, oh, I really hope we get Yannick Ngakoue, who we'd have to pay like almost $20 million to get anyway. I'd much rather have the stud pass rusher on a rookie contract for the next 5 years and then just pay our in-house talent there rather than having to outsource with free agents.
Yeah, you're right. A number 1 defensive guy like that and a number 1 offensive player in Daniel Jones with 1A being Barkley. So, I mean, yeah, you can't. Yeah, damn, man, you guys are convincing me tonight, man. Damn.
It's our job to. What's up, dude?
I like the move, man. Let's draft. Let's get the draft going on like another week, man. I can't wait, man. We need this to happen. Screw the XFL. Let's get this draft going.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I will say this though. I feel like Simmons is one of those guys where it's like if he goes to the scouting combine, which we'll preview next week for you guys, let's just say he goes there and he blows certain things out of the water, like the 40 time, the 3-cone, the vertical, the bench press. He blows all those measurable drills out of the water, right? I think you will legitimately have people having the debate of who's better. Is it Chase Young or is it Isaiah Simmons? You will legitimately have that debate for best defensive player in the class. And I think it's going to be a fun one to have.
Remember what podcast started this debate? Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, our podcast for sure. Right. No, I definitely agree. I mean, he might go out there and he might just blow the combine out of the water. But me personally, and I know it doesn't really matter what I personally do because it's about what Dave Gettleman does, but me personally, I don't put too much stock into the scouting combine. I think, obviously, I'm not in the room interviewing the players, but if I were, that's what I would put more stock into, not really just like a 40-yard dash time. When is a linebacker going to run 40 yards straight? Usually he's not going to. Things like that, I don't know. I think the game tape is more important than the combine, and combine doesn't matter much to me, but I definitely do think that we're going to be seeing a lot of those tweets and a lot of those discussions on Twitter. But who knows, man? Maybe Chase Young blows the combine out of the water. That dude's really big, and he's kind of a freak for his size. He's really fast.
He is a freak, man. I don't believe in the combine either. I mean, we've seen Tom Brady like walk the 40-yard dash and lasted the last pick, and now look at him. So, I mean, anything could happen out of there. It's kind of boring to watch, man. I don't really I watch the highlights afterwards, but I can't sit there and watch that all day. I don't know how the other scouts feel watching that. I'd rather be at a game watching them play live, like you said.
Oh, okay, well, see, here's the deal with those scouts. It's like it's their job to be patient and break those guys down like to the bone, play by play in the fall. So they're used to it. I mean, I personally, could not sit there on my, with the TV on the couch just watching the freaking combine. I straight up would just go to NFL.com afterwards and just look at all the measurements, and then based off that, kind of begin to rank like my big board for, well, how do I see certain things falling? Because it's like what, a 5-day event, and there's so much that goes on that it's like, okay, I don't have time for like the whole damn thing. I'm just gonna kind of review it when they release the measurables.
Yeah, if you want to see like one of your guys you watched in college or follow closely, you tune into him. And then
Yeah.
that's like really it.
Yeah, I actually usually do watch the combine, and it is kind of boring, but I would usually be like writing or doing something else on my computer at the same time. But usually I'll put it on, like if there's some quarterbacks I want to watch, like I want to watch Joe Burrow, so I'll put that on. But as soon as he's done, I'll probably turn it off. And like I'm gonna put it on for Chase Young and probably all of the edge rushers because I'm interested to see who's like at the top of the board. And I'll definitely watch Isaiah Simmons, but after all the big names that I know are gone, I'll probably just turn it off, which is the opposite of what I should do. I should be watching for the guys that I don't know to get more familiar with them. But,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just a fan.
You're not Anthony's not a fan, guys. He's a beat writer, so like, writes about the Giants. Speaking of which, dude, what's more boring for you, like the scouting combine or calculus?
Oh my God, don't get me started, man. Calculus. Okay, here's what my teacher does, and I don't want to go on too long about this, but my teacher will just do math problems on the board, like by himself. He won't explain how to do them really. He'll just do them and then be like, yes. And then I'll be like, no. And then he just goes on to the next one, and that's it. We don't have any homework. He just does that on the board and then gives us a quiz 2 classes later. So I've been tutoring, and it's going really, really poorly. I got a 0 on my last quiz.
I thought you would say like Matt Damon came in and solved the problem, and your best friend's Ben Affleck.
Anyways, before we kind of get to our next segment here, so as you guys know, we're sponsored by Fanatics. Go check out www.thebearsbrawl.com/Fanatics. Get yourself some great deals on there, guys. Baseball season starting, so show your love for the Mets and Yankees, but more so the Yankees. Go get yourself some NBA gear with, support the Knicks or whatever, or the Nets. That's whatever you want. I'll go get some hockey gear. And honestly, little side note, this time of year, all the NFL stuff's going to be on clearance. So stuff that you normally get during the season for like $60-$70, you can strike a sweet deal and get it for like $30. I mean, great deal. So once again, that's www.thebearsbrawl.com/fanatics. All right. So as y'all know, there's been a hell of a lot that's been going on with the 2004 quarterback class the last couple of weeks. Eli retired, and he was obviously the best of the 3 quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round. There is no doubt about that.
No doubt.
I mean, Big Ben, right? So Big Ben, did y'all see the article that was written about Big Ben on Bleacher Report?
I did not.
Yeah. So one of the writers there wrote like, yeah, it's time for Big Ben to retire and he's aging. And this was on like Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And then there was one comment underneath, and it was some dude like Big Ben, like it was, I forgot the username, but I think it was, yes. So it was like Big Ben's official Bleacher Report account, basically saying, yo, this is disrespectful, and I'm going to come back in 2020 and prove all you guys wrong. So, like, Big Ben's salty that they insulted him. And then, obviously, the news coming out on Monday that Philip Rivers is moving on. So, I think when you look at, like, these 3 quarterbacks, they're forever going to be linked because I think Rivers and Big Ben played on the better teams, but, like, Eli made the most of his situation.
Yeah, I mean, Philip Rivers and Big Ben definitely had the better situations, and I think anyone who thinks otherwise is just flat out wrong. I mean, if you go and you list all the players that Philip Rivers played with, it's an insane list. You can just already say he had a Hall of Fame running back with him in LaDainian Tomlinson. I don't know if Eli had any Hall of Fame playmakers on his team at any point. Maybe on defense, sure, he had Michael Strahan, but on offense, can you guys even name any Hall of Famers? I don't think there is one.
I tell you, man, like, you're right. Though both those guys played on, really good teams consistently. Giants, we had good teams, but it wasn't, consistent. Obviously, the past like 10 years. But those guys lucked out, man. They had a great offense, both pretty decent offensive lines. I mean, look at the careers they had. I mean, Big Ben saying him to retire. That dude's 8 feet tall, solid, and he can still throw the ball a mile. Like, why would you want him to retire? And Phillip came out and said he has 2 years left. I mean, I know he throws from like the side, some weird shit that I don't know how he fucking throws, but he gets it done. Rivers, you know what I mean? And I would like to see him in Chicago. I don't know how you feel, but I mean, that might be.
Hell no. I don't y'all. Okay, so I do not want him in Chicago, and the reason being is because first off, he's only been to the AFC Championship once, hasn't been there in freaking 12 years, even though he had like a better situation than a lot of AFC East quarterbacks. Because like you look at you look at basically the 2000s, and who were the big three the like big four? It was Brady, Peyton Manning, what's his name, dude? Yeah, Big Ben, and then Phillip Rivers, right? So those were like the four dominant ones, right? Phillip he's been to the AFC Championship game just once, at least in my lifetime, and I'm 23 years old. But so I do not want him in Chicago because it's gonna be like a freaking 1-year rental, right? I mean, if he comes here, if Rivers or Brady, one of these guys, comes to Chicago next year, they're winning the freaking Super Bowl. There's no doubt about it. But I would not want them because then it's like in 2021, you're back to the same damn thing of no like long-term solution at quarterback.
But to get a ring, I mean, you guys have that defense that's still there, man. You got a squad. You just need that guy to lead you, man. I would love to see that, man. Damn, I can't believe you're against that, man. Do you just love Mitch? Is that what it is?
No. Okay, so Trubisky, right? He's his own damn, and this relates to the Giants, by the way, because they've got a young quarterback too. But Trubisky was an issue in 2019. But there was so much damn dysfunction around him, just in terms of the offensive line sucking, no running game, friggin' some wide receivers running damn wrong routes, and no tight ends. I mean, there wasn't a legitimate threat on the offense outside of Allen Robinson here in Chicago. Too much damn regression, And so as a young quarterback, it's hard for you to overcome all that. And all the people that were like, oh, well, he should be overcoming it because he's the second overall pick. It's yeah, that's true. But every situation's different, So it's the same thing for Danny Dimes is if there is some if the offense kind of sucks next year, I don't anticipate it happening, by the way. But the deal is that he's going to have his own development. But if core around him is total shit, then the odds are they're not going to be the offense that we all expect them to be. Even with Saquon, by the way.
So I know Phillip Rivers had a pretty good supporting cast this year, and he has his entire career. But if you plugged him in to the Bears offense right now, you don't think that it would be a big upgrade and possibly get you guys back to the playoffs?
Even competition to help Mitch out, even in the preseason, get light a fire under him,
He could just learn from Phillip Rivers for a year and then take over again.
True.
Yeah, that's true. But we'll see about that. You know what they did, right? So Pace and Nagy and big market coaches say this to the media all the time. They'll basically media and lie to their face sometimes. So they were yeah, Trubisky, which he's gonna be opening up 2020 week 1 as the starter. But if he plays crap, then he's gonna be replaced pretty soon. So big market coaches and GMs, they straight up just freaking lie to the media all the time because they're yeah, we're not going to spill, we're basically not going to spill the beans and tell you what our real plan is. So, yeah, it's it'll be super interesting. But getting back to our conversation, so I remember the 07, I think it was the 07 season where the Steelers finished 10-6. The Chargers, I believe, finished 10-5, and the Giants they were 9-7, right? And I remember at that time, because I was 10 or 11 years old, people had debates of oh, well, is Eli like a bust and whatnot? Because these other two have been doing really well. And like Eli hasn't done anything. And Eli goes on that year and goes on an absolute tear and wins the Super Bowl. And I felt like that moment right there, like that 07 season when he won the Super Bowl was like the legend of Eli. Eli Manning's arrived and his legends finally started.
Sure was. If Plaxico didn't shoot himself the next season, we would have repeated. And can you imagine what that would have brought? But it is what it is.
Yeah, if Plaxico never did that, then we'd have 3 lie, and that's all I ever wanted was to have 3 lie, 3 rings for Eli, man. That would have been so cool. And I do think that's when the legend of Eli started, because I mean that's the greatest upset in sports history. But I do think for him personally, as an individual and not as a team, the more impressive performance was that 2011 season, because I think we won 9 games that season as well, I believe, and I think 8 of them, or 7 or 8 of them, were come from behind victories led by Eli Manning. He literally carried the team on his back throughout the entire season, and even in the Super Bowl, he completed a come from behind win again. And so I think that's really like, when you look at Eli's Hall of Fame career, yeah, you do look at the greatest upset in Super Bowl history or in sports history, and you're like, okay, that's probably his greatest moment with his team. But I think his greatest individual moment is that entire 2011-2012 season, because he really elevated his game to be up there with the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that season. He wasn't even playing like that in 2007, 2008. He played good, but he played elite in 2011 and 12.
He sure did, yeah. You know, Phillip, like, it's funny, you know what the big difference between Phillip Rivers, Big Ben, and Eli? Like, Phillip and Big Ben, they could never get past New England in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl. Like, before you guys were born, it was like, you know, back in the day, like in the early 90s, the Knicks played the Bulls with Jordan. Knicks could get past Jordan. It's like trying to get past him. But you know what? Who the one guy did get past him was Eli in the biggest game of the year. You know what I mean? So it's like, I like to say Eli's better than both of them. I know I'll get a lot of heat for that, but that's just what I believe. You got to be able to win these big games, and they didn't.
You believe the facts, Mike. That's a fact.
Right,
Can't hate on that.
Yeah,
that's facts.
Right. Damn right. It's the facts, guys.
Yes,
And you know what's the coolest part about that 2011 playoff run? I think it was that year that the Packers were also 1-15, and Eli basically went into Lambeau and single-handedly upset them, just shutting Aaron Rodgers out by 20. And it was also that year that they were Green Bay was the defending Super Bowl champs, and like Aaron Rodgers, that's when he just totally went on a tear, and like his legend, started to grow as well.
Yeah, I think Rodgers was MVP for that season. 15-1 in Lambeau. Eli didn't care. He got that win. No big deal. Hail Mary at halftime to Hakeem Nicks. I'll never forget that one, because I was with my uncle and I was like, just do a Hail Mary at the end of the half. They always knee it out. Why? Just do a Hail Mary. Maybe big body Hakeem Nicks will go up and get it. And then it happened, and we just started hitting each other because we were so excited. It was awesome.
Yeah, Eli, man, he's just, he's clutch, man. That's why a lot of people don't get it. Like, he stepped up in the biggest moment against all odds, man, and when he got the chance to go in the playoffs, no team wanted to play them with Eli there. Like, he knew he'd check down to the right defense, whatever defense is showing. He'd check out of that play. Like, that dude, like, if it wasn't for his brain, I don't know if, like, his whole other physical attributes would be able to contribute him winning Super Bowls, but his brain was so much better than all those other guys on defense all the time.
All right, yeah, so...
I love you, Eli. You watched it.
You know what was so I remember when the Giants played the Packers in the 2016 playoffs, back when the douchebag Ben McAdoo was still head coach. So they put a statistic up on screen. He's got, I think, like 3 playoff wins at Lambeau Field, and that's like, so I think he was in the same category as, like, I think it was Bart Starr, Aaron Rodgers, and Brett Favre for like most wins, or it was some crazy stuff to the Packers franchise. I'm just saying, if you're like, quarterback of another team has like the same amount of wins in Lambeau on like the road or something as like some of your other guys do.
Oh yeah, I mean that's Eli, man. He doesn't care where he's playing, how cold it is, what the environment is, who he's going up against. if it's in the playoffs, he's gonna play his best. And even that 2017 playoff game that you mentioned, Eli played a good game. They didn't lose that game because of Eli. Eli didn't have a good season that year. I think he played pretty bad the entire season. But in that game, he made all the right passes. The receivers, after their boat trip, just dropped all the balls. We can blame that game on the receivers. Definitely can't blame it on Eli. He balled out in that game. He threw some perfect passes. That one to Tavares King, who wasn't on the boat, who caught that touchdown pass. I mean, playoff Eli was in full effect, man. And if it wasn't for that locker room that McAdoofus put together, and there was no discipline or culture, and those guys didn't go over to Miami on a boat, maybe Eli would have been 3-Eli. You never know.
If Eli only had better teams, man, what if?
No,
Yeah, right.
so that's something I wonder so much as well. So like, because that first draft, right, or that first Super Bowl title in 2007, like that was Jerry Reese's first year, and that was not his roster that won the Super Bowl. It was the previous GMs drafting, along with Coughlin, Eli, that won them the Super Bowl.
That was
I think
Ernie
if
Accorsi.
Jerry,
He deserves the most credit.
yeah, definitely. So when you look at it, like I feel like had Reese drafted well from like 2008, 9, 10, 11 to sustain the Giants into like 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, you probably would have seen Eli potentially win a third title with Tom Coughlin, and that team would have been a dynasty. No doubt about it. I mean, how many teams do we see win 2 Super Bowls like with the same head coach and quarterback, and to do it in a 4-year span? Like that's rare in the NFL, and that itself should be kind of considered a dynasty, because like when you compare it to other sports like the NBA or the MLB, for example, a dynasty is always like 3 titles in like 6 years at least. But like in the NFL, a dynasty at this point has to be like 2 Super Bowl titles, like a 5 or 6 year span.
Right.
I
Eli should have had 3, man. Anthony's 100% right. It's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. We should have had 3-Eli, and I agree that should be a dynasty. But the only reason I think in the Giants' case it isn't is because they won that Super Bowl, and they never made the playoffs, and then they won the Super Bowl again. Like they made it the following year, but then those 2 other years they didn't make the playoffs, and then they won the Super Bowl, and then they didn't make the playoffs for 5 years after that. So that's the only reason I think the Giants, if they would have been sustained playoff success every year, they're in the playoffs, even if they're getting bumped out in the first round every year, but they got those 2 Super Bowls, then I think, yeah, they're a dynasty, because it's so rare to see a team be a perennial in the NFL, to be a perennial playoff team, and then also to get 2 Super Bowls. But since the Giants weren't in the playoffs that often, I think that's probably the reason that it's not a dynasty. And had they made the playoffs a few more times, maybe we'd finally get all these experts and analysts to shut up and just agree that Eli's a Hall of Famer.
Oh, God, I would love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should, we got to figure out a way. So we need to figure out where Eli lives, right? If they don't put him in the Hall of Fame in 5 years and he's not first ballot, we just got to figure out a way to get our own gold, like, blazer made and just ship it off to Eli and be like, you're in the Brawl Network Hall of Fame, Eli, first ballot. Yeah, for real. What's up, dude?
He's somewhere in Hoboken. I think we can find him. Just driving
Oh my
around
God.
Hoboken.
Okay, yeah.
He's probably just walking around town by himself. I can picture Eli just walking around, not doing a damn thing.
You know what? Next time he goes out clubbing with Daniel Jones, we'll find him. We'll be there. We'll party with the 2 guys, and then we'll give him his blazer.
I'll ruin their lives if they drag with me.
Anyway, speaking of, right, so we trash talk Ben McAdoo for a bit earlier. McAdoofus, as Anthony calls him. So guess what, y'all? I had freaking so I said something about Dak Prescott and the Cowboys on one of my tweets this past Sunday, and Cowboys fans came at me and they were so damn offended. And I was like, yeah, whatever, guys. I'm not even gonna deal with y'all, because like, what the deal with the Cowboys is that it seems like every friggin' year Jerry Jones is like, oh, we got enough to win a Super Bowl. And then what ends up happening? they either like, storm through the regular season and then y'all make the playoffs and then you're out in the divisional or wild card round, or they go like 8-8 and they just miss the playoffs. And then when they do miss the playoffs, right, it's just an opportunity for Jerry Jones to convince himself that this team is just one piece away from winning the Super Bowl.
Well, all the fans are always going to be convinced of that, and that's the funniest part about those fans, man. They're just clueless. Like you got the 18-year-old fans, like my friends. We've won 5 Super Bowls. That's more than the Giants. Okay, I was alive to watch 2 of these Super Bowls that the Giants won. You were a sperm when the Cowboys won those Super Bowls. You weren't even a thought yet.
Yeah, when the XFL like becomes like a minor league fucking league, I want the Dallas Cowboys to move there. I want them to minor league team, man. I fucking hate that team. America's team? How dare you, man? What do you get the balls to say you're America's team? Get the F out of here, man. F the Cowboys.
Nah, but see, okay, there you
the cheerleaders could stay. I like the cheerleaders. They're all right. Come up here.
You can't
fucking -degree weather.
You can't call them America's team, right? Because like for the most part in the 21st century, like they just been irrelevant, like okay, so even friggin' Tony Romo, this dude they considered this dude a franchise quarterback. And like, again, to me, a franchise quarterback's a guy that's like a top 5 elite talent in the NFL, not like,
and never
not like, yeah, exactly. Like, okay, so Tony Romo, I don't even know how many times he choked in the friggin' playoffs. Like, and they had T.O. there for a while too, right? And T.O. was annoying when he was in Philly, but he just got so much more annoying when he was in Dallas, right? Because he just would not shut up about anything.
I hated T.O. I hated that dude.
I'll tell you though, T.O. has one of my favorite Giants memories, man, because that was my quarterback. That's from when the Giants beat them in the divisional round of the playoffs. So that little clip of Terrell Owens crying at the podium, that makes me happy, man. Go Giants.
That spawned that memory, man. In my mind, that's a great memory I always cherish, man. I love seeing it, man. That shit was so funny. T.O. with popcorn and pulling out markers in the end zone. Get out of here. All about him, man. And see where I got you. Meanwhile, Eli don't give a shit. He's like a team player, and that's how you win games, man. That's it. That's all you need to have.
Yeah, Eli doesn't talk. He doesn't talk any trash or anything. He just stands on the sideline, makes a goofy face, and flashes his 2 Super Bowl rings. So
now these other guys are jumping in the Salvation Army tubs like on the sideline. I'm like, come on, guys.
Oh my God.
Just
They're so ridiculous.
Make a nice donation and don't talk about it.
I swear, dude, that team and their fans, right? They piss me. They just get on my damn nerves because it's just like, so this is the thing. The Cowboys, they're one of those fan bases that just like so spread out all over the country, And like even here in Chicago, so these guys were playing the Bears on Thursday night this past year, and I was at a restaurant, went to go see a friend before the game. We chatted, and there's like 5 or 6 freaking Cowboys fans standing in front of me that were clearly going to the game. I kid you not, dude, they pissed me off. Not because because they were Cowboys fans, but 2, because they freaking took forever to order. And I'm like, yo, it is not that hard. Like, this is a burger joint, people. Just order whatever the hell you want. There's like 6 things on the menu. Get yourself a damn drink and fries like every burger place has. And then just get out of here, dude, because I want my food like I'm freaking hungry.
You know what's silly about Dallas Cowboy fans? Like, the fans in Dallas, they literally walk around town wearing cowboy hats. Like, who does that? That's the only state you literally wear cowboy hats and cowboy boots, like a cowboy, like from like the 60s or 50s or whatever the hell the Cowboys roam the earth. They're so stupid. I hate that. That's another. Like, we gotta kick these teams out of our division and get real teams to come in the NFC East.
Now, see, so here's the deal with that, Mike, right? Is that you want to kick these teams like the Cowboys out, one, because they're irrelevant, but like then there would just be no one to go ahead and pull year in and year out, like, so they've had what, like 2 or 3 good years. Well, no, so they won the division in 2016, missed the playoffs in 17, made it in 18. They missed out in this past season, right? Because they missed it this
Yeah, they
past
missed
season.
it this season.
Yeah, so it just seems like every freaking year, right? They think that they can just win the whole damn thing, and then they never do. And the inconsistency from year to year is what bothers me so much, especially when y'all say like, "Oh yeah, well, we're America's team." It's like, no, you're not America's team. Like, y'all more like America's dumpster fire, which, by the way, needs to be the term for them now.
Yeah, they could all step in shit. I hate that stadium, that big Giants. I hope that big TV crashes and creates a crater in the middle of the field. I hate that field. That's Eli Stadium. Remember he signed it, Eli? Like I won the first game. Yeah. Eli owns that stadium.
Yes, sir.
Should rename it Eli Manning Stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play.
Yeah, if there's anyone that's a Giants fan that's living in that Arlington, Dallas area, whatever the hell the area is, right? Let us know. We would love to have you go there and just throw on the front door like the house that Eli built or whatever, property managed by Eli Manning or something.
Get a prize.
We'll
Eli.
Yeah, we'll figure out a way to send you like a medal or something too, by the way, because as long as you record it and send evidence, because that would for real be the funniest thing ever. And okay, so they also call what do they call the whole thing, dude? Jerry Worlds, right? Like that's the dumbest thing on the history of the planet, dude. Because like you know what Jerry World reminds me of? It's like a friggin' like a damn amusement park, dude, for like third graders.
I would hope that old man is not having an amusement park for third graders. That would be a little suspect.
Yeah, I could go down a real dark road right now, and I'm not going to, man. I'm gonna save the fan to that dark shit.
Yeah, let's bite our tongues, Mike.
Oh man, thank God we're Giants fans. Thank God.
Yeah,
thank God.
Screwed up and being like a Redskin or a Cowboys or a Philly fan. Imagine being brought up like that. Ugh. Feel sorry for them.
I couldn't imagine being an Eagles fan where when we win games, we decide we want to destroy our city that people work hard to build and decide to also have a horse manure sandwich.
And try to kill Santa Claus. They try to throw batteries at Santa. Like, who does that?
That's the worst, man. Those are the worst fans. Like, we ripped pretty hard on the Cowboys fans, and they deserve it. But Eagles fans are the worst in all of sports, in all of the world. That's my least favorite group of, that's my least favorite team, my least favorite people. Oh man, I can't stand it.
We could probably do a full hour on that, bashing the Eagles. Stay tuned. That special coming out on Thursday.
It's coming soon.
Nah, but for real, man. Like I swear, dude. Even if you're not a Giants fan, the freaking Cowboys are straight up annoying. Because, like, in this day and age, all they're known for is mediocrity, Like, that's it. Like, imagine because they're, like, the NFL's most valuable franchise, right? So, just imagine being known for, like, being the most valuable franchise, quote-unquote, and, like, being so irrelevant, dude. So that's all they are. Anyways, I'm going to go with early win predictions for next year, guys. Like, I don't know, the Cowboys might win, like, what? So, okay, the floor's got to... I don't know, man. Dude, the floor for that team's got to be like 6 games, right? And the ceiling's got to be like 10 or 11 wins, honestly. And even that, it doesn't matter if they win the freaking division because they're still going to get bounced out of the first round of the playoffs.
I can see them being 8-8, maybe.
Yeah,
that team could go 16-0 and they'll still lose in the first or second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true, dude. And then, like I said, Jerry's gonna convince him they're a piece away from winning it all. And then, what's his name, dude? You know who also pisses me off? That like just a diehard Cowboys fan, dude. Skip Bayless. That dude, I can with him.
Oh, I can't stand Skip, but I can't stand any of the talk show hosts. Stephen A. All they do, man, they're not even saying their real opinions. They're just saying what like the broadcasting network tells them to say because they have to have a take and the take has to oppose the other guy, so they have to play devil's advocate. And they just say things that they don't even know. They don't even know what they're talking about. Like they're clearly uneducated about it. They're just sitting there screaming for people to make memes about it on Twitter. I can't stand that whole thing. I could never listen to something like that. That's me personally. But yeah, Skip is just even worse than the rest of them because he's a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, look at Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith said in an interview like Dallas still had Terrence Williams. He hasn't played there in like 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so here's my issue with Stephen A. Smith, right? Is like he's an NBA guy, he's a basketball guy, he's not an NFL guy. So like from that perspective, like he can't talk NFL. But what I will say this is when it comes to trashing the Cowboys, he does probably the best job of anyone because he can just say whatever the hell he wants and I will sit there and I will enjoy every moment of it. Like when they got blown out, when they freaking got punched in the mouth this past season by the Bears, right, on Thursday night, the next morning he's trolling them and he's showing up in a cowboy hat and cowboy boots and whatnot. And the stuff is on YouTube, by the way. Just Google Stephen A. Smith Cowboys and he's just there and he's like, yeah, I told y'all are gonna suck. Like y'all had 2-3 game losing streaks this season. How many? Not one, but two. So
anybody
that
that's
like, I enjoy listening.
Anybody that says anything about Dallas is immediately my friend. Like I love them immediately.
I guess Stephen A. Smith would be like my favorite because he's pretty funny and I like the memes. But man, I can't actually watch the show where they're just sitting there screaming at each other. I can't do it. And we didn't even mention Nick Wright and Chris Carter. I know Chris Carter's not there anymore, but those two they said some pretty dumb things too sometimes. So I'm not a fan of them either.
Screw them all.
Yeah, screw them all. Listen to podcasts. Listen to the Brawl Network instead. Don't listen to that. Listen to the Brawl Network.
Don't watch it.
If you want to listen and hear quality people go at it with each other, like that's what we're known for. We're the Brawl Network, all right? We're open to any opinions, any takes, guys. Just at me, Mike, or Anthony on Twitter. At our social media account on Twitter, too. We're super responsive on there, all right? If you didn't like, I don't know, the color of my shirt or something, be vocal about it, too, because we're all about respecting different opinions here. Man, but for real, y'all want to continue to trash the Cowboys, or do we want to get out of here for the night?
I better get out before I say something I won't regret. Going on all night. Screw you, Cal.
I better go study some calculus.
Oh my God. Yeah, all right, guys. It's been fun. Thanks for tuning in this week. As always, follow Mike on Twitter at MikeTrainerMFT. Barkley wasn't present for this episode for some reason, probably because he's freaking napping away, dreaming about the Giants, the Cowboys next season. That's the purpose of the broom challenge, by the way, is we're gonna make it stand up and it's just gonna sweep the Cowboys on out of MetLife. Follow Anthony on Twitter at Anthony_Rivardo. Check out his work on Empire Sports Media too. And then while we're plugging Twitter handles, not so shamelessly, be sure you're following me on Twitter as well at Usayd Kosho. And like I said, don't forget to like us on Facebook. Just search of Giants Brawl. We're there. And then be sure to follow us on Twitter too at Giants Brawl. It's been a fun week. It's been a fun episode with y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will be back next week with a preview of the Scouting Combine. Peace out, guys.